Hello everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well, and today I'll be doing a review of the 1985 film Ladyhawke, directed by Richard Donner and starring the likes of Matthew Broderick, Rutger Hauer, and Michelle Pfeiffer. Now, this is the first time that I have ever seen this movie. Shout out to Laura, Ryan stole my fanfiction story / waiting for Nerdrotic for sending me a copy to actually watch. I was finally able to put it on today, and I'm going to be honest, I was actually quite surprised by the movie because I didn't look up anything with the plot other than some basic details about animals and people being animals and animals being people, that kind of thing that people in my chats have told me about. I didn't actually look to see what time this movie was set or anything like that, and I was actually incredibly surprised to hear a very 1980s score and soundtrack set to a medieval Italian film. I did not expect this to be taking place, one, in Italy, or two, in medieval times with knights and bishops and all this other stuff. I kind of found that pretty entertaining, and I found that pretty interesting, though I don't know exactly how yet to feel about those clashing genres or those clashing styles, right? To hear a 1980s soundtrack, which I thought was very good, right? The score was very well done. The music, it was said, was done by Andrew Powell. I thought he did a fantastic job, and it was very good, upbeat, definitely entertaining. It matched with the shots, but it didn't necessarily match with the theme of the movie, because the theme of the movie, again, is medieval, and the score just never really felt like it was appropriate for the time period. It's kind of that clash. Kind of reminds me a little bit about how you have more modern films like A Knight's Tale, which came out early 2000s, which had an entire soundtrack set to some just classic rock songs, and they were able to kind of, mix and match that with what was going on in medieval era and with knights and everything like that. And to me, I think that actually worked. I thought that clashing of styles worked. For this one, though, I don't know exactly if it worked per se. Again, I didn't not like it. I didn't hate it by any means. I'm still kind of a little confused by it overall. The general story of this film, though, I thought was pretty entertaining and was actually pretty compelling. So the main story is about Rutger Hauer and Michelle Pfeiffer, who are lovers, and essentially there was a bishop who was also in love with Michelle Pfeiffer's character, and because he couldn't have her, he decided to essentially use the devil. In fact, they make that reference in the movie, where essentially he makes a deal with the devil to put a curse on both of them so that Rutger Hauer's character is a wolf every single night, and every time it turns into day, he turns back into a human, and then at that same time, Michelle Pfeiffer turns from being a human to a hawk, and so they're never actually able to be human at the same time. Also, when they're in their animal state, they are not fully aware of themselves, and so they cannot really communicate with each other in any real way, and so it is this tragedy of love, right? These two lovers who can never be together in truth, can never, have to basically live their entire lives apart, all because of this bishop. So I thought that was actually a pretty interesting storyline. There were a lot of Catholic elements in the story, as far as the fact that there being a bishop, there was a monk, priest, and all these other things going on. There were mentions of things like confession. But I think my biggest issue was the fact that I didn't know exactly what time in medieval Italy this was supposed to take place in, because there were just so many things that didn't really match up. And again, very minor things. And I guess as a Catholic theologian, like as someone who has a master's in theology, I guess I just noticed these things a little bit more. I mean, small things like, for instance, the priest, or rather the bishop, when he was celebrating mass towards the end of the movie, is facing the people. And that's not really that's not something that really happened until the 1960s or in Vatican II. And so I was like, wait a minute, this is definitely not really of the period, and things aren't really matching in the way that people, they were looking and everything. So I don't think Richard Donner was going for that. Based on what I saw, the fact that you had a 1980s soundtrack, I doubt he was trying to go for that authenticity. But for someone like me, who is much more drawn to historical films that try and do the best they can to be as accurate to the material, or as accurate to the history and the time period as possible, it was just kind of jarring for me overall. So again, that was my historical mind kind of trying to, make, somehow try to make amends and try to be able to, somehow bring together and blend together these matching and these clashing of styles, as it were. And I don't really know exactly if the overall style and the overall story from like the setting perspective really worked for me. What did work for me, though, was the acting. I thought that the acting was spectacular. I mean, Matthew Broderick, did not realize this was actually a film Matthew Broderick did about a year or so before Ferris Bueller. And so the fact that he was in this film and he had a very prominent role all before his biggest role, in my opinion, or one of the biggest roles of his career, in Ferris Bueller, the one that he's most known for. I thought that was a pretty interesting take. Rutger Hauer, of course, was also fantastic. Very happy to be able to actually recognize that name now, as my chat recently went after me when I didn't recognize his name immediately as the guy from from the original Blade Runner movie, but now I am able to recognize his name, so I thought he was great. And Michelle Pfeiffer, I mean, to me, her role was rather limited in this film, and so for what she was doing, I thought that she did a fine job. The guy that played the Bishop of Aquila, I think what they say, Aquila, is that how they pronounced it in the film? I thought that he did a fine job, and all the other characters, the guy that played the bishop or played the priest, the monk, I thought was pretty entertaining, was fun too. And I guess that's the other thing too, right? So this is set as a medieval dark fantasy film, and so it kind of, I don't really know exactly what genre it was trying to go for in a lot of ways, right? So it definitely wasn't a comedy. There were maybe a couple moments where you might chuckle at some of the things that were happening on the screen. It also wasn't overly dramatic. I didn't feel my heartstrings really being pulled all that much by the characters and what was going on, but I did still find myself generally entertained by it. So again, it's a good movie, and you all know I'm not the biggest fan of Richard Donner's Superman. I think the story is not very good, and I think that someone put this best to me, saying, well, of course the story's not good. You don't watch it for the story, you watch it for everything else. And I understand that mindset and how people would come from looking at a film like that from that perspective, but I am much more of a story-driven person. I care more about and love and cherish films that are much more of a story-driven narrative. And so I think that the story to this one, like the actual generalized one about the lovers and about how they were being forced apart, I thought that was very well done, very well written, very compelling. But then there's just a lot of other weird things. Like, I don't know if this was a stylistic choice, but there were several shots where the colors were just completely off. You would look at the top of the screen and it would be a different color, almost like it was washed out or something. So I don't know if maybe that was an issue in the transfer of the movie, or if that was just something that Richard Donner decided to do as an artistic choice. It was just very distracting because it was not consistent. It happened at random times. There was no real consistent narrative being told there, and I'm all for visualized storytelling, but they have to have consistency with that, and to be honest, I just don't really know if this film was able to kind of capture that. But overall, I did find myself enjoying the story. I did find myself enjoying the characters for the most part. It just, I think, wasn't nearly as, I guess because I went in thinking that this film was going to be like a 1980s drama comedy, right? Like, that was the mindset when I heard Matthew Broderick was in the movie and it was called Ladyhawke, about a woman who was a hawk. I was like, okay, so this is gonna be some kind of, comedy, right? And then I got a medieval drama, like a medieval dark fantasy drama, and I was not really expecting it, and so it kind of, threw me for a loop overall. And again, there were some really strong moments to this movie that I thought were pretty well done, but then there were other moments that were just, I don't know, just a little odd to me. And I don't really know if they hit as well as they did. But anyway, I am very happy to have gone into another 1980s film, as my lack of knowledge of 1980s films is very well known. If I had to give this film a grade, I'd probably give it a B-. I mean, I generally enjoyed it. There were parts like the acting that I thought were very good. The general... the principal part of the story of the two lovers being separated, I thought was very compelling. I thought it actually worked within this medieval time. It's just the way that it was presented, the way in which the medieval story panned out, matching with the 1980s synth soundtrack. Again, for me, it was just a little bit too much stuff going on, and I don't know, for me, stylistically, it was a bit of a mess because of that very reason. Again, I don't know if that's a Richard Donner thing or not, but in the end, B-. Again, I think that it's a film that most people who probably grew up with this film would continue to enjoy going forward. But if you're someone like me who's never seen this film before, I think it could be hit or miss. I could see people really loving this film, really loving the stylistic choices, loving those types of clashes, and other people like me who are just, I like some of it, I don't like some of it. But those are my thoughts. Have you seen Ladyhawke? Again, thank you very much, Laura, for sending it my way. I'm still very happy to have been able to actually see this movie, though I'm sure that I'll probably get some hate from people who are like, how did you not love this movie? But as I said, I think that this clashing of styles, I just don't think blended as well as maybe some other. It might blend better for other people. But anyway, let me know your thoughts about this film in the comments section below. If you like this video, smash the like button, whether you're watching on Minds, on Odyssey, or on YouTube. Those are the three major platforms that I upload to. It would really be appreciated. Make sure you subscribe, and also check out the links to find out ways to support the channel. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my January 2021 Patreon and Subscribestar members: Albertus Magnus, Ali C83, Andrew Hoyle, animation commentator Brian P, Dion, Divex, Enrique Evangelista, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, The Hunky Chunky Funky Monkey, Inflamed Wood, It's a Trap Productions, Jason Clark, Jacob Juice, Jay, Jeffrey Toone, Jonathan Carney, Laura Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mr. Peabody and his beautiful twin with the beautiful hair, Orange Hat Reviews, On to June, Out of Step with Reality, Riff Magos, Rosetta Allen, Steve Glasker, Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, Tina Bojan, and Tina B. Thank you very much for being my Patreon members. And also a huge shout out to my Subscribestar peeps: Stan 4, John B, Perpetual Punster, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, Darkstar 57, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., US 888-209 Fast, Dean Heiss, J-Rod the Beer Guru, Nevadan G. Adams, and ZK Man. You guys are all freaking amazing. Thank you so very much for being supporters. If you want your name shouted out, please consider joining on Patreon, where for $1 a month, you can get your name shouted out at the end of every single video and live stream. For $5 a month, you get access to that, and also you get access to exclusive giveaways, where I give away 4Ks, Blu-rays, digital codes, etc. $10 a month will get you all that, plus also access to a special podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger. Lots of fun. We do Q&As from that as well, so you get access to asking those Q&As, asking us any wide variety of questions. And for $25 a month, you get all of that stuff, plus you get to be featured once a month on the Chosen of Valhalla live stream. And also for that first month, you get a free t-shirt shipped anywhere throughout the world. So if you want to consider any of those things, please check out the links in the description below, where you can find my Subscribestar and Patreon, and also other ways to support the channel. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless.